Focus. Probably the second biggest track they had next to Hocus Pocus. I don't know, I'm just guessing. The reason I've chosen this song, although it is difficult, looks difficult, sounds difficult, it contains a single line melody with loads of techniques that I think we can just skip to, which would usually take ages of scale practice, individual technique practice. This just rolls in loads of very basic techniques into something that looks and sounds quite hard. So we'll forget that initial little chord progression, we can do that another day, but what I'm talking about is this lead line. So it's played mostly, I mean he plays it down a bit lower. You can watch him on Grey Whistle Test. It's Jan Ackerman. He's playing a black Les Paul, black and with some weird pickups like toaster pickups, I don't know what they are, and he plays it down here somewhere on the fat end of the neck. I quite like it down at the thin bit, it's just more fun down here. Sounds similar. Played a lot of it on the B string. So we start here. So straight off the bat I've got two different types of vibrato. We shouldn't jump straight into vibrato, but I will. So with this one I do a single finger vibrato, which is like an up and down, very BB King, you'll see him do that. I go. This one I do more of like what you see violin players do. Just rock the finger backwards and forwards on the fingertip. The reason I started doing that was because my vibrato, I noticed, sounded quite amateur sometimes. So you can sound quite pro, well it's like a cheat. A little cheap pro move is to just rock the single notes. Like that. Can't really hear it, more for show. I can hear it just, but I mean maybe you can. It's like, yeah, like I say, a little violin. Gets you out of trouble a little bit. You don't have to play quite so in tune. We've got some hammer-ons and pull-offs, so we'll get to those. That's a hammer-on. And a hammer-on, you're playing one note here, so I'm on the 10th fret, and I'm going to hammer on to the 11th on the B string. And the first time you'll do it, you'll probably get really quiet, a really loud first note, and really quiet second note. It's just getting that tip of your finger to hammer down in the right place on the fret, so the string sounds again. Ideally, you want to be good enough that you can sound the string without picking it, which is really hard. But what to do is mainly just make it clean. So just practice doing a single note, hammer on with your second finger there. A pull-off is the reverse of that. Again, you want to be able to do it so you can do it without picking, but it's not so essential. And you kind of hook your finger over the top of the string that you're pulling off of and pull down and pull off at the same time. So you get a reverse of a hammer-on. Sorry, I did a little pick slip there. So a hammer-on, pull off. In that first bit, it's just a pull off, it's not a hammer on, but you'll find a hammer on later on, which I'll show you. That's the hammer on and pull off section. Again, I'm doing my little vibrato. Probably take this point to show you a bend. We're flying through the techniques here. Hammer on, pull off, bend. So the way I've been taught bends is something different to what I see quite a lot of the players do. So we'll get to that, a lot of the YouTube players anyway, and players that have learned from YouTube videos. I'll get to the bend. So it's there. Don't worry about the pitch for the moment. I mean, my pitch has never been as good as it should be. The idea is you're bending this note to that fret and back again. I've done a slide, which we'll go into in a second. So we want to make the sound of this fret sound like you were playing this fret, but you do it in a smooth, bending motion. Now there's a couple of points for bending notes. The main one people get wrong is they think when they're starting to play, a bend is done by opening their fingers out, like this. Like the strength, you would be flicking something. But that's not the case. the idea of a bend or a controlled bend is as if you were holding a doorknob. So it's more like this. You want to lock these fingers in place and you want to twist at the wrist as if you were opening a door. And then you want to pivot on this part here, this first knuckle really. And lock that in place on the fret, under the frets. And you don't want to stretch your fingers out like this. You want to twist your arm and your hand. It's more of a, and you've got to control that. It's not done in the fingers, it's done with the wrist. You'll see my thumb's quite high over the top. When you're learning, it helps to have your thumb on the back of the neck straight. But again, we're taking shortcuts. So if it feels natural putting it over the top to get your leverage, then do so. But the thumb kind of creeps its way over as you progress. But to start with, you want to keep that thumb behind as much as you can. And then, I mean, vibrato again. Mainly people add vibrato out of habit and to cover up poor pitch. So I do the same. But don't worry about vibrato too much, because that's a whole different skill set. Once you build up the strength to twist, you've got to build up the control to twist backwards and forwards in micro movements. So just for the minute, work on bending that string. And bending that string, after you've worked on bending the string, work on bending it in tune. So you want to go backwards and forwards between those two notes and then going to try and bend into the same pitch. If you can't quite hear it yet, that's okay. I couldn't hear it for the first 3 or 4 years of my playing. I was rubbish. But you will get it eventually, and it will get closer and closer the more you do it. So they're the first 3 techniques: hammer-on, pull-off, and a bend. There's also a slide that I do. He probably doesn't do a slide. Again, this isn't gospel because he played it different. I can hear it different in the record to how he plays it live. I think he just does what he fancies. That's a little slide. And the way to slide a note, you're playing without lifting your finger off. Without lifting your finger off the fretboard, you slide down however many frets you want to go, or up. I think I actually find it harder to go up than down, but personal preference. And the idea of a slide is you want it to ring as you slide. There's another one. So yeah, that's a few shortcut techniques in that song. It's always very good to play the melody of any. I mean, Les Paul was notorious for saying, "Just play the tune. Don't mess about with all the other notes. Just play the tune. Play the top line," as we'd say. So I think this is a good one because it is the main tune. I think it was written by the guitarist. You can kind of tell it's written by the guitar player. So that's a good one because he's thinking as a guitar player, he's playing a melody as a guitar player, and it involves loads of techniques in that tune. So yeah, it goes like this. You start on fret 13 on the B string and just play around this little block of about 8 frets. Really slowly, so you can see which frets and which strings I'm hitting. I hope that helps. A little shortcut to some techniques.